Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Noni Nurkasanah, name 196121157 from Group 10. I will explain about page 43 until 47. Okay, I will start. The research problem. A research problem is not a nuisance, it is a step toward new knowledge. Search of problem is three important sorts for research problem are experience, deduction from theory, and related literature. Non-education sorts might also be useful. These sorts are appropriate in both quantitative and qualitative research. Experience. Among the most fruitful sorts for beginning research are their own experience as educational practitioner. Research can provide the answer to such question. Most graduate students in education have been in the classroom or are currently working full or part-time in schools. Students who have not had teaching experience can get idea from discussion and their reading in education source. Theories. Theories are a good source of problem for research. A theory might be defined as a set interrelated statement, principle, and proposition that specify the relationship among variables. The application of the general principle embodied in a theory to specific education problem is only hypothetical, however, until research empirically confirms them. Choosing a theory. Not all theories are equally useful to a beginning research. Let us examine some of the characteristics one searches for in a good theory for a research study. 1. An essential characteristic of a good theory is that it is testable. 2. A good theory is not only testable but also falsifiable. 3. A good theory deals with some significant phenomenon or behavior that needs explanation, such as learning or motivation. 4. A good theory provides the simplest, clearest, and most plausible explanation for the phenomenon. And then 5. A good theory has internal conscience. Its propositions do not contradict one another. 3. Related literature. A review of related literature might help in the following. 1. You may find a study that needs to be replicated. You can repeat someone else's study not actually but with some variation. You might use a different age group, different setting, or a different methodology. 2. You may find a question that represents the next logical step in the research on a problem. The outcomes of one piece of research very often leads to new questions. In conclusion, published research can be a great source of idea for research. With some critical analysis of the research in your file and a bit of creativity, you shall be able to find several potentially researchable problems. Reading research will also help you by showing how previous research measure variables, selected samples, analysis data, and so on. And then review of research. Review of research that integrate and summarize study on specific topic can be very useful for identifying a research problem. Those products by the American Education Research Association are particularly useful.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Yuama, and here I will explain page 48 to 52. In 1973, IRA launched the annual review or research in education to provide summaries of what research has been done, is being done, and needs to be done in a specific per topic each year. Approximately every 10 years, IRA published the Handbook of Research or Teaching. This form lists, summarizes, and critically analyzes research in the field of teaching. Amongst the topics in the four edition are policy of license and assessment of teachers, special education, middle school teaching, teaching as a moral activity, and the teaching of physical education. IRA's Encyclopedia of Education Research, designed to present a critical synthesis and interpretation of report educational research, contains artists with bibliographies providing well-documented discussion of research trend and development as well as traditional topics. Other useful periodical include basic info, education, abstracts, and specialist reviews such as social work abstract, historical abstract, and medline. Non-educational source. The AIDS epidemics has simulated a great deal of research on the best procedures and material to use to equip young people in school with the danger of the disease and how best to protect themselves from it. The inspiration for much valuable research in educational has come from such non-educational sources. Qualitative research problem. Just as in true for qualitative research, beginning qualitative research can look at their personal experience and interest to theory, to the professional literature, or the current social issue and real-world concrete to find a potential problem. You need to identify an area or a topic about which you have a real interest. Once researchers have set the initial focus on inquiry, they need to identify exactly what they want to know about the topic. The focus in inquiry is thus narrowed to the aspect of the phenomenon that will be explored in the research study. Suppose one is interested in the general topic of bullying behavior in elementary school. Elementary teaching have long observed that some students are bullies and others become their victims. In a qualitative study, a research may ask how and why the behavior develops and could use naturalistic observation to investigate the behavior in an elementary school. The research will want to interview the bullies to find out what they are talking and what their motives and goals are. Evaluating the problem. The problem may fill in gaps in current knowledge or help resolve some of the inconsistencies in previous research. Would the solution make a difference of educational parties? Would other educational be interested in the findings? Would the finding be useful in an educational decision-making situation? Problem should be one that will lead to a new problem and so to future research. Avoid trivial problems that have little or not relationship to their of previous research. We suggest that a beginning research consider selecting a problem that could possibly be expanded or followed up later in a master thesis or even a doctoral dissertation. It may be helpful if students familiarize themselves with the research efforts of the professor. Why not only can suggest relation problem needing investigation but also may later serve and a mentor or a doctoral committee member. Problem must be researchable. My interesting question in education cannot be answered by scientific research. Problem should be suitable for the researcher. The problem might be excellent from the standpoint of the previous criteria, but inappropriate from the individual. First, the problem should be one is in which you, the researcher, have a genuine interest and about which you can be enthusiastic in. Should be a problem with solution in personality important because of what include contributes to you own knowledge or to improving your performance as an educational practitioner. Yes, the problem in meaningful and interesting, it is doubtful whether you would be willing to expend the time and energy to do a thorough job. In addition to interest, one must have a necessary research skill to carry the study through to competition. Another consideration is whether you will have access to participants and the data necessary to answer the research question. Let's see. One should choose a problem that can be investigating in the allotted time and with the resource available. Do not select a problem that is the large or too involved, and be sure to allow adequate time for constructing instrument, administering instrument, conducting interview or object observation, analysis data, and read the report. Problem should be either clearly appropriate, that is, the problem should be one that you can investigate without violating ethical principles. Do not plan research that may cause physical harm or psychological harm such as stress, discomfort, or embarrassment that could have lasting adverse effects. Fortunately, most educational research does not involve great risks or harm to subject. However, the potential for harm always exists, and a researcher should be prepared in a participant question, counseling, or other help after participating in the study. A researcher should involve the privacy of subject and minimally as possible. For example, a research may plan the use of inventory that asks adolescents questions about sexual experience, religious belief, attitude toward parents, or other sensitive topic. In this case, the researcher should not attach name to the inventories. Starting the research problem. The starting of the problem varies according to the type of research. Thus, we consider quantitative and qualitative research statement separately. The problem statement in quantitative research specifies the variable and the population in interest. The problem statement can be a declarative one such as the study investigates to effect or computer simulation on the science achievement or middle school student. The statement can ask a question about a relationship between the two variables. I think enough, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Ivy Mufliana Bila Farida. I will presentation my summary results. My name 19621126. In here, I will present the problem statement in qualitative research. Qualitative research also begins with a problem, but they state in much more probably than in qualitative research. A qualitative problem statement or question, in this case the general purpose of the study. Formulation of a qualitative problem begin with the identification of a general topic or an area you want to know more about. The general topic of interest is sometimes referred to by qualitative research as the focus of inquiry. The initial birth focus provides the framework but allows for change as the study progresses. As the research gathers data and discover new meaning, the general problem narrow to more specific topics and new questions may arise. For example, Perth 2007 conducted a qualitative study to learn about a rise of PACE program for transitioning Black young people into adulthood. The program draws upon American traditional culture to improve values, improve self-concept, and develop culture awareness. The specific problem was what are the participation of former study who had experienced a rite of PACE program while attending an American Cancer high school. The findings suggest that the participants bear the right of PACE as a community in endeavor that facilitates their transition into adult. The review the review is a method to inculcate social, culture, and political values that will increase the positive development of Black young adults within the Black community as well as American society. The next, thereas the qualitative research always states the problem before collecting data, the qualitative research may formulate the problem after beginning to collect data. In fact, the research often does not present a final statement of the problem, with typical specification, the setting, subject, content, and aim of the study until the author has collected as at last some data. Identification population variable. The population there is below average readers. Reading ability is not a variable in this question because all the children being considered have already been diagnosed as below average readers. Having identification as below average readers as the population in the original statement, Ms. Burke should now ask herself if that is really the population she wants. She will probably decide that below average readers is to put a category and the should confirm confine solving to a particular exhaustive selection below of secondary readers. Now the is ready to identification the variable in the remainder of her original statement. Individual tutorial can be made into a variable by varying the type of tutoring used, varying the amount of tutoring time, of having some children receive the tutoring and other not receive tutoring. A result that the dependent variable is the outcome of interest, and the independent variable is hypothesis of influence the dependent variable. Now it's become obvious that the word tutoring is too general. Unless all subjects review the same type and amount of tutoring, the result of the study will be meaning. It is often useful to follow the products in a formal manner similar to that used for diagram assessment. You can begin off drawing a vertical line and a writing population to the left and variable to the right. The next, let us take another question. What is the effect of having experience versus not having experience a preschool program on the reading activement of first grade population? First graders variable having experience versus not having experience a preschool program or independent reading activement department. This question is complex in that it has an identification population and birth identification and department variable because preschool program precedes reading activement of first grade. The former can be identification as the independent variable and the latter as the dependent variable. Course of problem experience the education from theory, relate, literature, education sources, criteria of evaluating problem statement, recording, rating, recounting student is qualitative reward. The last conclusion. The first text Viking research is selecting a researchable problem and setting it in a problem suitable for research. To find a problem, investigation may look their personal experience. Two theories from the question may to the correct literature in their area of interest or to non-educational courses. The mass evaluation, the significance of the purpose problem in terms of specific criteria. Asking questions such as will the problem contribute to the present body of the knowledge? The question should not directly involve a philosophical issue, nor should it be so general that a result understanding is impossible. A qualitative research question asks about the qualitative between certain variables. The statement of the question should identify the population of insect and the variable to investigate. A qualitative research question it indicates the general purpose of the study. The criteria for evaluating qualitative problems are similar to those used for qualitative research problems. Thank you very much for summarize. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.